Hi there, my name is Scott McDonald, and in today's video I'm going to attempt a 1-hour trick challenge in which I try to learn a new, terrifying trick in 60 minutes or less. Today's challenge is gainer drop-ins, which might be an easy trick for some people, but I've been struggling with a mental block and completely avoiding them for the last decade after my first and only attempt, which really didn't go well. You'll have to wait till the end to see whether or not I succeeded, but either way, I hope you enjoy watching the process. To figure out my placement under safe conditions, I decided to start by setting up a block beside the foam pit. Given that the block is so short, I knew that if I could complete the flip rotation here, it would be really physically easy to do on any tramp wall. I began by just doing regular gainers to my feet, basically seeing what my distancing was and whether it felt better to do a 2-footed takeoff or swing one leg into it. I honestly didn't notice any difference between the two, so I just went ahead and started taking the flip to my back by tucking a little bit more aggressively. It felt like I could get to my back with no problem, so I added a mat and repeated the same process. Now that I had a surface to land on, I tried to simulate a realistic landing position and get my head down rather than keeping my chin tucked. On tramp wall, you always want to land with your head flat against the trampoline, so this was both to protect my neck and so I could potentially spot the corner of the block and prepare for an imaginary pullover. So far, everything felt totally safe and consistent, so I figured there was no point wasting time and moved over to the tramp wall. Now, so far all of this had been relatively unthreatening, but taking it to the wall was a big deal for me. Foam pits, blocks, and mats are all fun and games, but on the wall, I was really afraid of staying too close and hitting the back of my head on the corner, or going too far out and landing with my tailbone on the frame. To make matters worse, the only time I had tried this trick before, I tried to circumvent these fears by doing it long ways and deliberately taking my gainer really far out. What I didn't consider back then was how this placement would affect my pullover and therefore my return to the wall. Or lack thereof. With that in mind, this time I still felt like starting long ways would be the safest option, but I added a couple mats to absorb my impact and save me from my impending doom. Now, I often find that the longer you sit around imagining all the ways things can go wrong, the more likely you are to hesitate, and when it comes to acrobatics, hesitating tends to be way more dangerous than full commitment, so as soon as I had my mats set up, I got on top of the wall, gave myself no warning, and immediately went for it, which earned me the Dylan Broadway stamp of approval. I was really proud of myself for just casually doing it, but I also landed looking down my body with my legs dropped, which would have gone very badly without any mats, so I immediately got back up and did another one, this time focusing on landing in a better position. I figured this would also be a good time to see how the swing takeoff felt on the wall, and when I did, something very rare and unexpected happened. Right as I was about to take off, I balked. I almost never do that, and I really don't like being controlled by my fears, so I paused, cleared my head, visualized what I was going to do, and calmly got it done. That said, it seemed pretty clear that I should stick with the 2-footed takeoff for the rest of the challenge. Despite how spooky that was, I still wanted to keep things moving forward, so I asked Dylan to watch one of my gainers and let me know if the placement looked safe enough to take to the short side. He said it looked fine, so it was time to turn the mats and enter uncharted territory. On this side, you have a much narrower margin of error when it comes to placement, so I gave it a couple tries, and I was really glad to find that they both felt safe. This made me feel confident enough to remove one of the mats, which meant that the trampoline would give me more power out of the landing, and to my surprise, my first attempt almost went to the top without really adding any effort. Having done that, I tried again with a little more power and intention, and I wound up sticking the landing, which made me feel super confident. I figured if it was this easy to do with a mat taking some of my bounce, it should be completely effortless without one, so I removed the mat, stepped up like a gladiator entering the arena, and realized I should probably just, drop in first to feel what it was like. So, yeah. Okay, so now that that was out of the way, it was time to get it done, and it was easy. It felt amazing to finally do this trick, and I couldn't believe it, but it only took me about half an hour of dedicated practice to conquer a fear that had been holding me back for an entire decade. Now that I had successfully completed the challenge, I spent the next few days drilling my gainers in various ways, and I'm happy to report that they are now one of my absolute favorite tramp wall tricks to do. So yeah, I'm really glad to have done this challenge, finally faced my fears, and added a new trick to my skill set. As cliche as it might sound, this whole thing was a great reminder that fear is the mind killer, and trample is much harder mentally than it is physically. I plan on doing more 1 hour challenges in the near future, so please let me know if you enjoyed this type of content, but either way there'll be plenty of new tutorials coming soon, so until next time, good luck and happy training.